Chess is a game of strategy, foresight, and adaptability. Players plan their opening moves to gain control and adjust tactics as they respond to each of their opponent's decisions. And that's exactly what snowmaking is, well, except the opponent is Mother Nature. What's going on, Midwest skiers and riders? Matthew Zabransky with MidwestSkiers.com, and snowmaking season is very, very close. I can pretty much smell it, and once those machines start humming and the snow is flying, the first and number one question that ski areas across the Midwest will get is, when will you be opening? Followed then by, when will X Run open or X Park open for the season? Well, believe it or not, ski areas are not staying closed just to make you mad. They actually have a game plan, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. But before we jump into that, if you haven't watched our recent video on everything that you need to know about snowmaking, be sure to head on over and check that out first, as some of the terminology and concepts that we're going to be using in this video will be referenced from there. We'll put a link to that below or wherever it goes into the corner there. Now, the first thing that we need to understand is the game and all the different pieces involved with it. Like chess, ski areas are equipped with different pieces that make up their snowmaking team. However, unlike chess, everybody's pieces aren't exactly the same. In an ideal world, all ski areas would have ski runs lined with tower guns and the pumping capacity to turn them all on at the same time. And there are some areas in the Midwest that can operate like this, such as Perfect North and Alpine Valley, Wisconsin. But it has taken them decades of reinvesting, and the reality is most ski areas in the Midwest are not and will never be in this situation. Instead, most ski areas need to decide where they use their equipment, budget, and crew when it comes to snowmaking operations. And every ski area will have different tools in their toolbox along with different terrain and infrastructure, which all equates to what works for one ski area is likely not going to work for another. They may be limited to the number of snow guns they have, their pumping capacity, or even just hiring. I've also seen areas limited to how much power they can pull during certain times of the year. Again, every area and system is different, adding even more complexity to this game. And you might be asking yourself, what exactly is the game? Well, the game seems pretty straightforward. Make snow and get 100% open as soon as possible. But if only it were that simple. Because unlike chess, operators have an ever-changing game board. Reading and engaging long-term forecasts and snowmaking windows is one of the major roles of snowmaking teams at ski areas across the country. As we all now know, we need a wet bulb temperature of at least 28 degrees or lower to make snow. And of course, we will look at those wind speeds as well, but there are some other factors at play here. How warm is the ground temperature? Will what we make immediately melt? How about the long-term forecast? Will the snow that we make tonight be usable? Or will we end up starting over in a few days due to the warm front that's going to be moving in? What is the temperature of your snowmaking water? And then there is how long and deep are those snowmaking windows. For example, if our team takes about an hour or so to get the system up and running, and that window is only 3 hours long with marginal temps, is it worth spending those resources to make basically minimal snow? Probably not, unless you have to test your system. And as we already know, the lower the wet bulb temperature, the more efficient our snowmaking system will be. So do we just wait for colder conditions to maximize our resources? Well, no. Since ski areas need snow to operate, every moment that you are not open, you're also losing potential revenue. And then there's the question of, when should areas begin to push their piles of snow? Because piles melt a lot faster once you start to spread out due to their surface area, so keeping them in piles as long as possible is generally a good idea, at least until you're ready to open. Lastly, there's the element of operations just beyond snowmaking. Is your ticketing team ready to start the season? How about your food and beverage? Do you have ski patrol scheduled? Is all of your regular maintenance complete from this off season? So you start to see the paradox here. We want to maximize resources while still being able to open as soon as possible so then we can produce revenue. And this is exactly why snowmaking strategies vary so much across the industry. Truthfully, there isn't a right or wrong answer here. However, I have generally found 3 strategies when it comes to snowmaking and opening dates. So let's take a look at each of those. The first strategy is by far the most aggressive, and that is to basically open as soon as possible. These areas will focus on making snow whenever possible and will open with minimal operations and conditions. And although this approach can be resource heavy and rarely pays off in ticket sales, it can pay off in marketing. Ski areas that open early in the season get some great media play from local news outlets, ski channels such as us, and social media to drive awareness to their ski hill. And we've seen this often with both Andes Tar Hills and Wild Mountain, which made it on the national stage, opening first in the country a few years ago. Generally speaking, operations that use this approach will be much smaller than those that focus on the other two strategies. It is just a lot harder when you have more terrain to cover and more staff necessary to open a ski area for the season with basically little to no notice. So obviously there's nothing wrong with this strategy. In fact, a lot of skiers and snowboarders love ski areas for it, but it may not be the best use of resources, especially if you're a ski area that's a bit bigger and requires much more effort and capital to get up and running. The next strategy is one that we commonly see across ski areas in the Midwest and even the country: setting minimum standards and terrain for opening day. This strategy involves a little more patience, as ski areas have a set minimum amount of terrain and snow depth that they are looking to achieve before opening. This gives the guests a better experience and ski areas a little more time to get things prepared and adjust for staffing needs. Sometimes ski areas even have a tentative opening date, knowing that it's a little bit later than some other areas in the region. However, this will allow them to make more snow and potentially open with more terrain. It also gives their staff a good idea of when they must be ready to roll for the upcoming season. Another reason this is a great strategy is that ski areas that open too soon often have to go back and make snow in areas they've already blown in, which is not ideal. When making snow, the best situation is to be able to finish runs and then move on to the next without having to come back to that run unless you need some minor touch-ups. This allows your team to focus on expanding terrain rather than just trying to keep it open. And then lastly, there's the hold back and open with more terrain strategy. I have found this to be more of a situational thing. When a long cold front is forecasted, and ski areas may choose to hold back opening so they can focus on making more snow and opening with more terrain. Although it is possible to make snow while guests are on the hill, it's usually not the ideal situation. And this is especially true if you're making snow on runs that they would be skiing on. Pushing back the opening date allows areas to focus on just making snow and saving those piles to have a stronger opening in just a few more days. Similar to the last strategy, the goal here is to finish snowmaking on your primary runs, then move on to expanding terrain. This way, you're not backtracking throughout the early season to touch up areas that have already been opened. In this example, however, you're just taking a little more time to ensure these runs are fully covered before opening for the season. So as you can see, there's a lot more that goes into snowmaking and opening for the season than a lot of people consider. Just know that your local ski area is doing everything that it can to put you on snow as early as they think is best for their operation. So instead of complaining, let's thank those that spend long nights and days putting us on snow each and every season. Thank you, snowmakers. And speaking of snowmakers out there, what did I miss? Are there any other considerations or strategies that your area uses that we didn't talk about? Drop those in the comments below. But until next time, I hope everybody has a great week. Pray for that snow or cold temperatures, and I'll see you out there.